Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of our F1 2021 My Driver career mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day. Today we have my home race here in Canada for the Montreal GP. Very excited for that one, but first we have some breaking early season news going into next season already, and the announcement is that Porsche has announced a major partnership with Williams Racing for next season. The team will be renamed Porsche Williams Racing, or Porsche Williams F1 team, whichever one we seem fit, as the relationship is expected to be much more than just engine supply from Porsche. Porsche already has been rumored to be in contact with myself, Aston Martin driver Gary Owen, and well, as Gary Owen, I can confirm they have been in contact with us to be a potential driver for the Porsche Williams team next season. Not sure if I'm going to quite take that offer up yet now, as I don't know where I want to go currently, and we don't know, we might actually end up staying with Aston Martin for a third season, so we'll have to wait and see. But I hope everyone's having a good day here now as we get ready to go racing here in the Montreal GP. There, as we have Erva right there in the paddock alongside Guan Yu Zhou. And coming into this one, of course, we have a lot of pressure on our back. We have a lot of hopes and courage and confidence coming into this Canadian GP, hoping that we can have a strong run here, especially coming off of an incredible Azerbaijan Baku City GP there, where we finished second and a photo finish alongside our teammate of Sebastian Vettel, who finally returned to the top step of the podium after being winless for multiple seasons. His last win, of course, being Singapore of 2019. It was very cool to battle my favorite Formula 1 driver for a victory there, but unfortunately we made contact with him right at the line. He was able to stay out in front and we settled for a second place finish, but nonetheless a good confidence boost after 3 straight DNFs with 2 mechanical failures, and then of course the incidents in Monaco there. Now, as practice was looking pretty good leading us into qualifying, so the hopes were high. Of course, we're not going to have the pace that we had in Azerbaijan because Canada isn't a top speed heavy track. Now, of course, it does have a very long back straightaway heading down into that final chicane before the front straightaway, so that's really going to be where our car outpowers everybody out. So there will be a portion of this track where we can definitely use to our advantage of this car, and we're going to try and show that off here in qualifying. Now, as qualifying would go pretty smooth, we came through into Q1 and it was really just a cruise to get into the second qualifying session now, as we laid down a solid lap. Wasn't the best lap in the world, but it was enough to get us into Q2 here. Now, as Verstappen was currently P1, Vettel was P8, myself in P11. Lance Stroll, Schumacher, they were down at the very bottom of the grid, as you saw the other 3 drivers eliminated as well. So we come through now into the start of Q2, and it was an okay Q2 so far to start off. I made a bit of a mistake there through turn 2, and as we came through into this final chicane, being really aggressive through there on strict corner cutting, I was having a bit of a tough time. I was getting some times invalidated in practice a lot, so I was trying to be careful and strict and lenient in some of the ways that I attacked corners, but unfortunately I had to go out for a second attempt, and then my lap was actually impeded by Lewis Hamilton, who refused to move out of my way at the start of this lap, and that completely killed any momentum in my angle, my apex, and our lap got absolutely destroyed. So we stayed out and ran one more lap because I wasn't confident that we were going to make it into the next qualifying session with that current lap time. So I decided we got to stay out on the track and see what we can do, put the best lap in possible. Thankfully, we gained about 1/10.5 to 2/10 of a second as we came through to cross the line, and that would be good enough to just barely keep us in here in P10 as we do advance into Q2. So a little bit of course, aggravation towards Lewis Hamilton and why he would not just get out of my way there and completely ruin my lap. But that's okay, we can repay the favor at some point when he needs a favor done as well now, as we would get underway in Q3. I only made 1 attempt in Q3 as I only had 1 set of soft tires, so I waited right to the end of the session, and overall it was a pretty competitive lap. It was looking a little bit more competitive than the one I put up in Q2, and none of the tires that we're using in Q2 matter, by the way, because it is going to rain at the start of the race, so we were able to abuse those tires in Q2 without really any punishment here. Now, as we come through down the front straightaway here for our one and only attempt in Q3, we cross the line. We go P7 for the time being, but will it stick in P7? Yes, it will. Lando Norris gets pole by 1/1000th of a second. Our teammate of Sebastian Vettel there down in P10. So we're going to head to the grid here in Montreal and get ready to go lights out in our home GP here in Canada.
Hello and welcome to the Ile Notre Dame once again for what promises to be another incredible Canadian Grand Prix at a fiercely competitive circuit, where pole position can often be decided by less than 1/10 of a second. It's a tricky circuit to tackle in wet conditions, with top speed still of critical importance down the long back straight. There are 2.7 miles and 14 corners overall on a circuit that in the dry can see average lap speeds of around 130 miles per hour. We'll be lucky to get anywhere near that today. Anthony Davidson, thanks for joining me once again for the Grand Prix. Let me ask you about Aston Martin. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Valtteri Bottas that completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Ricciardo, Max Verstappen and Perez. The rookie, Sainz, Vettel and Pierre Gasly. Tsunoda, Russell, Charles Leclerc, they've taken a grid penalty, and Ocon. Latifi, Giovinazzi, Callum Ilott and Guan Yu Zhou. Mick Schumacher and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head to trackside for today's race.
There you saw the grid here as they're ready to go. Lights out in the Canadian GP here in Montreal. I underfueled the car quite significantly for the start of this GP because we're going to be quite slow, obviously, so we should be able to gain all that fuel back by the time the rain does come to a stop. But it will stop raining. It will get dry probably around, it was looking like around the halfway point of this GP here. So we'll see what actually happens now, as that weather prediction isn't completely accurate, as we have it on more of an estimation than an actually completely accurate guess now, as the rest of the grid gets up here to their grid boxes as we get ready to go. Lights out. Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton all the way up there in the top three now, as it's going to be Lando ready to lead the way from pole position here in the Canadian GP. It's lights out and we are underway, and not a good start in the background for Ricciardo, not a good start for Norris either, who's overtaken by Valtteri Bottas. Hamilton sends one up the inside there, the two British drivers side by side through turn one, through turn two. Now in the background, I'm going around the outside of Sergio Perez, and I'm trying to bring my teammate of Sebastian Vettel with myself now, as Norris and Hamilton continue side by side here into this right-left chicane. Now as they go a little bit wide, Hamilton does, but he now kind of pays back Norris a little bit and moves up into the second position here, as everybody somehow keeps it clean here on the first rain start, in the first bit of rain racing we've had all season long. It took a lot longer than I think any of us anticipated, but the rain is finally here for the first time this year, and it is certainly putting on a show here in these opening moments of the Canadian GP here in Montreal now. As you can see, everybody's starting to settle in now. Now as Vettel, he would be able to get past Perez along with myself, so Perez lost a couple of positions on the start there to the Aston Martin team, so a great start for myself and Sebastian there now. As you can see, the rest of the field coming through, keeping it clean now, everybody just kind of getting in line there, single file, maybe just trying to make sure we all get through this first in opening lap clean without any issues. Now as you can see, Bottas has driven away already from Lewis Hamilton here now, as with Perez being so low in the grid order, if that stands, Bottas has a good chance here to potentially take the championship lead here today in Montreal now. But Lewis Hamilton, he of course has been very strong, but he unfortunately had that DNF in the last episode due to that mechanical failure, so we'll see what Lewis Hamilton is able to do here in the comeback today. As you can see, a lot of cars slipping out there on the exit of that final corner there in the champions corner. That wall of champions, so terrifying sometimes when you're going at it so quick here now, as we were continuing to struggle for grip of course here in these opening moments of this GP, but we would continue to hold our own here. Now to lap 3, Ricciardo, he was struggling for grip as well right in front of myself now, as I was feeling pretty confident with the pace I was putting in here on this intermediate tire now, as it was continuously Bottas, Hamilton, Lando Norris your top 3, but I was right on the gearbox of Daniel Ricciardo. By the time we came through to lap 6, Sebastian had actually set the fastest lap of the GP at this time, or at this point in time here, but I was putting the pressure on Ricciardo, and as you can see now, as we came through down this long back straightaway towards that final chicane, we are pretty close to him here as we head into this final chicane. We got through there just downright better than him, and we put the overtake mode on there, got a little bit loose, but we save it here, and we're going to have an opportunity to maybe send one up the inside of a driver who's known for being the one that sends it, and we do that. We make the move up the inside, side by side through turn 1 and turn 2 as we try to go around the outside of the Australian of Daniel Ricciardo, and sure enough, we clear that McLaren and take over the position now, as Vettel, of course, was just settling in just behind Daniel, and he would not waste any time either now, as Sebastian Vettel would put the attack to to Daniel Ricciardo within the next lap or so as we came through to lap 9. Here he is around the left-hand side, up the inside, into turn 1 now as Ricciardo is going to get overtaken by both of the Aston Martin here in just a matter of a lap now. As you can see, he fights hard on that right-hand side of the track, but it's not going to be enough now. He pretty much gets past the exact same way that I passed him moments earlier, or that lap prior now. So we continue on in P5, and we were setting a really good pace here. We came through to set the fastest lap of the GP so far on lap 10, just seconds after Verstappen had done it, and our pace right now was lightning fast here. Call me Lightning McQueen at this point here now as we came through towards the end of lap 10. You can see fastest sector 1, fastest sector 2 once again, and it was anticipating a fastest sector 3 time, of course, there with the way these first 2 sectors had gone so far, and that's exactly what it would be. We would come through to set the fastest lap once again, and we continue to close in on both Verstappen and Lando Norris. Now, the track was starting to dry up because the rain was letting up quite significantly here. You can see on lap 12, it's getting a lot better here in terms of the conditions on the track, and I felt like it was just a matter of time until Jeff was going to say, hey, like, it's probably time for a dry set of tires, and well, sure enough, that's exactly what would happen. He would give us a strategy here change of a medium compound tire on this lap 12 right here. So we will be pitting on this very lap. Now, there you see right there, DRS enabled. The track doesn't look dry by any means, but F1 2021 is kind of weird with that now, as it dries up really quick, and sometimes when it looks wet, it's still good enough for dry tires. So Vettel unfortunately had to stay out, and so did Lewis Hamilton. So they are going to have to stay out an extra lap, but we'll see how that works out for them as we continue into our pit stop here. We put on the medium compound tire. Had to wait a few extra moments there for Verstappen to go around us now, so we did lose a little bit of time, but it wasn't too much there as we would continue on our way now. Tsunoda had stayed out on the track as well there in the AlphaTauri as his teammate of Gasly had come into the pit lane, and he would actually be right there on the gearbox of Verstappen. They got caught up fighting each other, and that would allow me to get pretty close to Verstappen, and of course right on the attack of Tsunoda, and I'm going to send one up the inside here. A very bold move, but he was on the intermediates, I was on the medium. Of course we had to go for it right there, otherwise we were going to be losing a ton of time through that corner. But Hamilton and Vettel, they would eventually work their way into the pit lane here at the end of the current lap that we were on, and of course this is going to be a big hit to them here. As you can see, Hamilton just leaving now on the medium compound tire as Vettel puts his medium compound on, but here comes Bottas already past Hamilton. Lando Norris is past Hamilton, and even I am going to pass Lewis Hamilton, so that just goes to show how much time that the Mercedes British driver had lost right there now as we continue to move closer and closer to a podium position. Now Verstappen just one car ahead here for that podium now, as Gasly is out of the session and the safety car has come out now. It appears he's had a crash actually into the wall of champions here. Gasly and the AlphaTauri BMW out in Canada there. It looks like a big hit potentially there. We're going to get a replay of what just happened. He's battling alongside George Russell in the Alpine and just completely loses it and has a monster hit there to the wall of champions. Look at this move right here, a very aggressive move side by side, and he just throttled up and around. He went in a hard hit there for Pierre Gasly. So the safety car comes out, and that does help Hamilton and Vettel because that gets them right back close to this pack of cars, but of course they still have to try and find some track position now, as the sun has been starting to come out here over the last couple of laps, and we were getting ready to go back racing here in Montreal within just a few laps time now. But what a bit of a shakeup all of a sudden there for Pierre Gasly and the AlphaTauri BMW now. As you can see, Hamilton actually right behind myself, and we remember what happened in Q2 there, so I'm definitely not going to be cutting him any favors now. We know the Mercedes is faster, but I'm going to make sure he works to get past me here as we get back underway. Racing is going here once again as Valtteri Bottas has been in control of the Canadian GP here in Montreal since the start of lap 1 after going from second to first with an overtake on Lando Norris now, as everybody gets through here very clean. Nobody even tried a side-by-side pass there into turn 1 and 2, and we just continue on our way and trying to just kind of settle in behind Verstappen now and just make it to the DRS point at this point now, and just hope we can stay within range of DRS activation, of course. Now, as we know, the Red Bull, BMW, the McLaren, the Mercedes are all faster than us now, and then of course we got the Ferraris that are relatively even with us, but we've been getting the best of them here so far this season in Aston Martin now, as we continue to actually lose a little bit of ground right there. Not a good corner, and here comes Lewis Hamilton here, and I said I was going to make it as tough as I can for him. He's going to have to work for it. We go down into the hairpin, side by side. I get enough momentum around the outside, nearly under the barrier right there, but we continue to stay ahead of Hamilton. I'm not going to make make it easy on him. You know, if he would have gave me that break in Q2, I would have given him a break right there probably and let him have the position, but he didn't give us a break. We don't give him a break at this point now, so it comes around eventually here now as we would continue though on our way. Lap 21 just behind Max Verstappen at this point. Still one more pit stop remaining in this GP now, as Verstappen had currently set the fastest lap of the GP. Lando Norris right behind Bottas. Nicholas Latifi, fellow Canadian, out in the Canadian GP. He actually had an engine failure there. As you can see, we would roll past him on lap 23 there. Now, as we approach this final chicane, Lando Norris is going to come into the pit lane here on lap 23, while everybody else around him is going to stay out maybe an extra lap or two, maybe 3 laps. And now we're within DRS range of Verstappen.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there. We're attempting to manage it.
There's no way. We've had 2 mechanical failures in the last 4 races, 2 in a row actually it was, with Portimao as well as Spain. Let's hope that this is just maybe a bit of a temporary issue here now, as Latifi already 1 Canadian out in the Canadian GP. We don't want to be the 2nd Canadian out in the home GP. That would just be insult to injury now, as we continue to try and put the fight to Verstappen. I'm acting like at this point that there's no issues, but there it is. We have the gearbox fail on us, and we're going to be out again in the Canadian GP, our home GP, and we were in position to go for a potential podium, maybe even a race win if the strategy worked out right, but instead we have our 3rd mechanical failure in the last 5 races. You got to be kidding me. That has been just such a thorn in our side this season. I cannot believe that just happened. Another mechanical failure.
That's it then for another magnificent Canadian Grand Prix, and they've hung on to take a sublime victory here today. Talk to me, Ants. What was it that set them apart from the competition today?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot, a well-earned victory for Mercedes.
There you see the finishing order. Hamilton ended up 2nd there in front of Norris and Verstappen. Now as Sebastian Vettel got P5, and of course we're out in Canada. That's, like I said, our 3rd mechanical failure in the last 5 races and our 4th DNF in the last 5 GPs. So very, very annoying to be dealing with that now, and that's just how harsh F1 can be, and that's why I love having these player mechanical failures. It throws a huge curveball, but sometimes a frustrating curveball, as we're starting to slip out of any chance at at fighting for a world championship. Although we didn't come into the season expecting to fight for a world championship, it would still be nice to at least have a shot, but not meant to be. And yeah, just very, very unfortunate. We're going to be making a lot more reliability upgrades, but the worst part about this is we have the best reliability and the best engine in F1, and we're having a lot of reliability, so reliability issues, which is really frustrating. But nonetheless, that wraps it up for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed on that frustrating end here in our home GP. In the next one, we head to France, where we actually had a mechanical failure last season, so let's hope that doesn't repeat this time around. Nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. I'd like to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this episode, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.